What's up, everyone? Welcome to Ryan and Matt's excellent podcast. We are super excited to talk playoffs. We have eliminated all but 4 drivers in the 3 major national touring series. So a lot of Martinsville action to discuss, dig into the racing action this weekend, and then preview the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series championship races from Phoenix next week. I felt like this was a pretty exciting, but also not crazy elimination weekend. All 3 races were relatively tame compared to the wall riding and shenanigans we have seen here at Martinsville. Matt, you were on the ground there for all 3 races this weekend. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was Martinsville, right? I mean, when I say Martinsville, I mean Martinsville in the traditional sense, what it was before the fall weekend turned into shenanigans. It was just really solid short track racing, right? I mean, I feel like from a Cup Series standpoint, this tire combination, this looked the closest to a traditional Cup Series Martinsville race in quite a long time. And I know the fall off was only a second and a half to 2 seconds. It wasn't a great amount of fall off, but it was super cold too. But drivers had to manage it. There were tons of marbles leaving the racetrack. I grabbed a handful and was like, all right, this is old school 10 years ago Martinsville Speedway. The Xfinity racing product is super good, but there were no shenanigans. Same thing with the Truck Series race. And I think that holistically, we got Final Fours that made the most sense. I know some people could quibble with Christopher Bell on the Cup Series side, and we can get into that. And we can have our weekly, let's talk about the playoff format conversation. But just at the end of the day, I really love making that 1 hour drive for me, which is why my office is in the background. I love going to Martinsville in the fall and enjoying some short track racing. And don't forget the Whelen Modified Tour. Austin Beers, 2025 champion, the youngest champion, supplanting, overriding Ryan Preece. And so I don't want to not give him a shout out. Spectacular young race car driver who I think we are going to be hearing a lot about in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at the modified race until about lap 50. My kid got a little too cold, a little too tired, and I was like, all right, we'll check out. But got to watch the Mazda Cup race there. That was fantastic. About as close of a finish as you can get there. So got a little bit of Martinsville action in for me this weekend, which was fun. I think the only thing I would argue back on is that Lane Riggs not being in the Final Four is the guy that stands out as probably should be there, but isn't. Obviously, if Grant Enfinger doesn't take him out lap 1 at the Roval, he's in there. If he doesn't miss a shift and collects one more point in this particular race, he's in there. At Talladega, if he doesn't spin out 3 times, he is in there. It felt like every little thing went wrong for him, but at the end of the day, he still finished with the 3rd and 5th the last 2 races and did not advance. So it's still one of the quirks of this particular setup where a driver who in the last 11 races has 3 wins, 7 top 5s is not fighting for a championship. That feels weird to me, but in totality, yeah. I mean, when you look at guys like Ty Majeski and then all the way at the Cup Series, maybe Bell, but he hasn't been that good the second half of the year. I want to go out and say that he absolutely deserves to be there. I feel like we got pretty much the 4 most deserving or threatening drivers at this time of the year. And I know. Okay, let's just get into it. Is this the last Martinsville elimination race?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we know it, for sure. And I thought about that leaving too. So, like, listen, we've had this conversation. I'm generally pro playoff, but I left Martinsville going, whatever we do next year, I hope it does not feel less consequential than what this weekend felt, because all I know is that for the last 3 nights, I left the racetrack going, man, that was interesting. It was exciting. There was tons of consequence. There was a lot of things happening. There were a lot of storylines. And I just do not want to go back into the mode to where even during the chase, it was like, man, do I need to go to Martinsville? Do I need to go to Homestead or Texas back in the day? Did this feel consequential? And that's just the only thing that was kind of front and center in my mind. And I do want to acknowledge, there are some season-long quirks and consistency and your overall body of work. I do not want to make the sport less interesting. And I think sometimes we are talking to a subset of the audience who they're going to watch no matter what. And there's two ways of looking at it. Like, I don't want to dismiss the old school, super diehard fan. I'm one of them. And despite being a pro playoff guy, I am the old school short track guy who's watched stock car racing his entire life. I just don't want our weekly show to be less interesting and less consequential. And if it is like a full season Latford system, Martinsville is not going to be that interesting. It's just not. I mean, maybe there's 1, 2, 3 drivers who are going to be the focal point. If it's a chase or if it's a elimination format with a much longer runway at the end, 6 races, that's probably the middle ground, because then it will feel like Martinsville absolutely has consequence. But that was the number one thing I thought of as I took my elevator down and was walking around and looked back at the racetrack, and I thought, man, say what you will, there was a lot going on in this race, and I do not want to lose that feeling of consequence.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick before I give my rebuttal, we're doing the show live. We're tinkering with stuff. This is all trial run, right, for us, these last few races. We mentioned that already. But part of that is the ability to give comments and questions and interact with us during the show. So if you have a question or a comment or thought and you want to get out there, drop it in the comments. Braves fan thought it was a fun race. I agree. I think today was a really good show overall, especially considering we had a guy lead like 300-plus laps. For as dominant as someone was, it still felt entertaining. And then MMA Degenerates right there with me. Lane Riggs got robbed or jobbed.
But did he though? He screwed up. That was on him. He did. I feel a little, and listen, I've known Lane for 7-8 years now. I've known Lane for a long time. Despite everything that happened in this round, he controlled his destiny and he effed up. He made the mistake. He could have had the stage points there, and it wouldn't have come down to a tiebreaker. If he got robbed, he robbed himself. He screwed up.
I think the only reason I'm not like too bitter about it is because Corey Haim's just been that dominant. If the shoe's on the other foot and Lane was the better guy and he doesn't advance because of a missed shift, that feels so trivial to me. But back to your point about Martinsville and being the racing that we saw this weekend, but being potentially the last race or last time we see this kind of elimination format here. I looked at the racing, especially the Xfinity race, and I saw Taylor Gray win, who wasn't in the playoffs, and that was a big storyline and a big race, and he was going at it. We had Eric Almirola, who was at the front for the majority of that race, and he's already locked in. It didn't matter what the hell he did in this particular race. He could just race for the win. And I thought the race was plenty entertaining because of those two guys just racing a race, if that makes sense. You didn't need the gimmick of the playoffs for that race to be entertaining and for those guys to go out there and put on a show and for Taylor Gray to go get his first win. It was plenty consequential. I guess there's also the whole fight, which we'll get into later, that also made that race spicy. But I don't know. I mean, Sammy Smith was trying to win in, so we were all thinking back to April when he wrecked Gray, right? That just the full circle moment where we end up with those two again. I just, if we kind of eliminate the fact that Sammy Smith was trying to get into the next round, I think Sammy Smith would also just try to win a race. He doesn't have that many to his name. So I think when I look at races like that, I'm like, I don't need the gimmick of the playoffs to advance. And something that clicked in my head when I'm looking at all the graphics that NASCAR has been putting out this evening, it feels like they use the word playoffs as a marketing tool instead of it just existing. Like when it's a normal playoff sport like the NFL, I think, yeah, it's just synonymous. It feels natural. With NASCAR, it feels like they're almost trying to make you believe it through marketing. And that's kind of where I get lost in it. I want it to be more organic and more natural, and I don't feel like the playoffs feels organic or natural. I do think at least a chase format or a longer runway for the best drivers makes a lot of sense. But to your point, the Cup race today with Blaney, with Byron, with Elliott, with all those guys, was it entertaining? I mean, even with a winning driver with Byron, that put the pressure on Larson to run top 5 all day to get the stage points, to make sure he beat Bell in points. There was a lot of things to cover and watch. It just, man, I don't know. I mean, hopefully there's going to be a change. I don't want to belabor the point on playoffs anymore. I think we can get into the actual racing action and look forward to Phoenix. But for me, I feel like the race was really entertaining. I feel like the tire wear was fantastic. And that gets me to the question I want to ask you about the next gen car. I mean, fans hate this car. I mean, they hate it. But I look back
People
at
the industry hate the car. I hate the car. It's a universal sentiment. I assure you, the fans are not alone.
But the last 3 months, I don't know if it's really put on bad racing. I mean, Talladega aside, which whatever. But I mean, I look at Martinsville, I'm like, is this fixed? Like, are we 90% to where we should be? And people don't remember 2017. The racing here was boring as shit. It just wasn't good. And it didn't matter. Ryan Blaney talked about this week how that was the year he figured out this track. And there was a race 2017, 2019, 2018, somewhere in that range. It ran on a Monday because it rained out. Clint Boyer led for like 200 laps. He didn't have the fastest car, but Blaney couldn't pass him, right? We've seen this for like a decade in NASCAR. And I feel like when I look at this car versus what I saw a decade ago, it's the exact same show. And I felt like it was decent, not great. Byron dominated, but he just had the best car. What are your thoughts on the next-gen car and the package we saw today versus a year and a half ago, where you couldn't lap anybody and you couldn't make passes and there was no fall off, and the racing felt 100% different from what we used to see here 18 months ago?
Yeah, listen, I don't want to put like a percentage number on it. I still think there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, I still think the fundamental flaw with this car, once again, is that we have a car that's built like this instead of built like this. And the fact that you can still run flat into the back of someone, going back to Bristol, right? Run flat into the back of someone at Bristol, and it doesn't even change anything, that you can grab a gear and just go. To move someone out of the way, you still have to get under them and then turn right and hook them. But I don't know that you could have done that 2 years ago with this car. The cars were so planted in the center that if you were to even get under someone and try to nudge them, you grab a gear and it plants the car and you drive away. So I'm excited, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago. I'm excited to see what this car becomes once you put the horsepower into it. They continue to make more gains. From an aero standpoint, from a tire standpoint, I did talk to a bunch of crew chiefs this week. What are you looking forward to trying at North Wilkesboro in December? And I was surprised. A lot of them said, I don't know how much more we can do. And so here's my concern. You think maybe we're 90% or whatever, an arbitrary number, 90% of the way back to where we should be with a short track car. Talking to crew chiefs this week, it sounds like they think we've taken this thing as far as we can go without like a fundamental redesign of this car. And so I'm glad the car is okay, that it's not a complete disaster. And, the leader catches the back of the field and he's stuck trying to lap the 36th place guy for 25 laps, because that was awful. And we don't have that no more. So that's progress.
Yep.
I love the tire fall off. And the thing that I thought mattered the most is that it's not about, people always think that, it's 2 seconds or it's 3 seconds or it's 4 seconds. And with each higher number, the racing is better. That's not the key. And we talked about this with the Roval. The key is just speed differential. We need to get the tire to fall off to a point to where, William Byron felt comfortable only falling off to 1.6, and Blaney was able to make it last to 1.4. And everyone's rate of fall off is different, and the driver controlled that. And I thought today, for whatever reason, there was a great disparity of speed. And I think that if you compare that race to a Gen 6 race from 2017, it looks pretty comparable, because I know there wasn't a ton of crashes and incidents, but man, we would watch some of those races in 2016 and 2017. It's like, what do we need to do to make the racing more action packed? How can we create more contact? And at a certain point, these guys are really good. These are the 36-ish best, and they don't just crash the way the Xfinity guys do. Plus, everyone's super equal. With the Xfinity series, you have your Diet Cup cars, your mid-pack, and then your shit boxes. And when you have that much going on, it creates a lot more disparity too. And so I thought the racing was pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. No Penske. I want to get to championship 4 now, because I think the race was pretty good. Speaks for itself. Byron went out there and dominated. He showed up when the lights were brightest, so to speak. I think there's not really a whole lot to touch on. He just showed up, got the pole, won each stage, won the race. Clean cut. He made his claim for the Final Four.
But Blaney did give him a fight.
Yeah. Well, and if there's going to be anyone, it was going to be Blaney. It felt like. I mean, in the last 6 races here, it's been HMS versus Penske. It feels like it's been Blaney in the fall, HMS in the spring, and so to see Byron kind of click it off doesn't surprise me. But beating Blaney in this race is impressive. Like, it's ending a reign of terror for the Penske organization with 3 straight championships and everything they've done with the short flat track program that they have there. So with the championship 4, there's 2 things I want to talk about. One, no Penske, and then the other thing is we have 2 JGR and 2 HMS cars. The 2 biggest organizations, the 2 best organizations, got 2 into the Final Four. It feels like it is Goliath versus Goliath. So what do you make of no Penske in there? And then who wins this thing? Who has the edge or advantage between Hendrick and Gibbs heading into the championship race?
Well, I don't have like the short list of everyone that said this after the race, but gosh, it felt like 3 or 4 different drivers, or Jeff Gordon said it, competition directors, was like, this is wide open. Like, this is the first year in the next gen era where we're not going to Phoenix. And it's like, man, it's going to be 12 or 22, some combination like that. And I think that the way I kind of look at this is the Hendrick guys have the momentum. Byron and Larson had to race their way in 2 different ways, and that doesn't mean nothing. I think we saw it with Blaney a couple of years ago when he won his championship, that there's something about having to fight your way in to a buzzer beater that does carry over. I'm a little concerned if I'm Joe Gibbs Racing, especially the 11. The 19 had an engine issue, whatever, maybe that's a one-off, but every freaking week we're talking about something with the 11, whether it's a starter on Saturday, whatever it was today, power steering, engine, you name it. And Denny started to talk about it. I asked Chris Gapehart, leaving the racetrack last week at Talladega, like, do you have a quality control issue? And he said, no, and I'm not going to get into what it is. We have a pretty good idea of what it is, and it's something that, we should be able to control. And I even wrote it. I said, Gapehart says there's no worries. And then he goes off to qualify on Saturday, and the car wouldn't go. And then he blows up or whatever happens on Sunday. So the 19 does too. And so, in a one race, small sample size, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. But that's the way I kind of size it up. Larson's been here. He's done it. This is Byron's 3rd straight Final Four appearance. And I think that at this point, there's nothing that's going to catch them off guard. They're prepared. Denny's been here and he's lost this version of a championship so many ways before. There's the Gremlins. And Briscoe has scored more points than anyone else in the playoffs. And I think they are the best overall performing team right now, but they don't have the resume together to suggest they're that team until they do. And so that's kind of how I, shake everyone down heading into next weekend.
Sure. Real quick, something you touched on, mechanical failure for both Briscoe and Hamlin. My initial thought was, okay, they're trying something. They're learning for next week, seeing if they can find a little something. any word on that? Anything to make of that? You don't seem too concerned with it, but
Oh
it
no,
is
no!
unique
Listen,
that Hamlin's been battling.
if I was Joe Gibbs Racing, I would be terrified. I can't tell
Okay,
you that I'm not. I don't know how to feel about it because I don't know what it is, and there seems to be
right.
a multitude of things because it's something different from an 11 standpoint. It's something different every time. And all Gapehart told me last week is that this is not someone forgetting to tighten a bolt somewhere, but he said he
Mhm.
knew what it was last week when it was a stuck throttle. There's been so many, they all run together. Stuck throttle. The fact that it's something different is just weird. And yeah, I don't know I don't know how to feel because I don't know what it is. And I've asked the
Yeah.
question and everyone's been super,
Well, they're not going to
mom.
tell you, right?
Of course, I mean, unless it was something that was super justifiable
Yeah.
and there's no harm in the public knowing. But yeah, I mean, as for tonight too, is the only answer I got was we're still looking into it.
Sure.
I'm
And that
still
question came
so
from
what do I
David.
do with that, right?
Right, right. I got to get used to pulling these questions up before I ask them, but that
I
question
like
came from
that.
David. He was,
Yeah.
um, I'm a the Hamlin thing is so far reaching because it's stuck throttles at starters. It has been a
Power
litany of
steering.
issues, and it's been, if you look at it, 8 or 10 times this year. It's not a small number. Obviously, they're pushing every little thing to get every bit of performance out of the car, but still, it's got to be nerve wracking. And then going in with both the engines blown up, that's an interesting way to get prepped for a championship race. One thing I want to bring up, another question, because I had this a little bit lower, but I figure we can transition to Xfinity and trucks now. This is a pretty good question about silly season, off track wise, just me or we having silly season, especially in Xfinity and trucks, where a lot of teams are being very hush hush on their 2026 plans. Um, Harrison Burton was announced this week to Sam Hunt Racing. There's been a couple things. I think Landon Lewis is running part time for Nice. We're seeing things trickle out, but a lot of this is
We all know
typically
where Caden
depending.
Honeycutt's going.
Yep, we knew where he was going pretty early on. A lot of this is sometimes because the lower series have to find that funding, right? They have to piece everything together. A lot of things come together last minute. January, they're like, okay, fine, we'll do this. They'll take whatever amount of money they can. But what are your thoughts on the Xfinity Truck Silly season as we've seen so far? There are a lot of moving pieces, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of answers to certain rides. But we do know kind of where JRM sits completely. JGR seems pretty full up, but those secondary rides seems like Parker Retzloff is finding a new team, and some of those like secondary moves are being made. Any insight, any thoughts on that? Is this status quo for these type teams?
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons for that. I wanted to find Chris Rice this weekend, and I couldn't make it happen. So I'm going to go try to talk to Chris at some point this week because I think we're kind of waiting to hear about Colleague.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Like we keep hearing the rumors all summer. Colleague is going to shut down their Xfinity team, and then they find the Ram deal, and we keep hearing that some of their current Xfinity guys are going to go over there. But Chris keeps jumping on Sirius and says that, the Xfinity team is like our heart and soul, and we're not leaving Xfinity. And we keep hearing they're leaving Xfinity. And so at the end of the day, if you can't find someone to fund the car, then you can't run the program. And
Right.
maybe you just take a step back to, at some point, Stellantis is going to roll out their Dodge program, and maybe you just come back with that in the Xfinity Series and Cup then. The other thing is that with Haas Factory Team moving to Chevrolet, keep in mind that Haas Factory Team builds chassis and does data and support for all of their partner teams. And I did a story about a month ago with Joe Custer, and I asked him, I said, are all of your customers going with you to Chevrolet? And he says, we don't have any deals yet. We're talking to them. And so I think you've got to figure out, are some of those teams going to go to Chevrolet? Is there going to be another Ford team that serves that role? who does business for them in that way. And so I just think all of this to say there's a lot of moving parts from a manufacturer standpoint, from a who's building the chassis standpoint. Spire's involved in a lot of that too. And so I just think there's a lot of silly season business to conduct once the year ends. And don't forget, Carson Quapple's racing for a championship next week, and he's only got half a season. He's trying to put a deal together to where unless someone brings him another $1 million or $2 million, he's probably going to try to fill his schedule next year with another team. And so then you're looking for a team that has half a season available too. And so it's just, there's a lot of moving parts.
Right. And, from the Kaulig thing, just connecting dots, it does not seem like that team's coming back for the Xfinity Series. I don't see. I mean, the biggest thing that I learned when I was managing, before in the corporate world is people are the most important asset, right? There's not enough people to start 5 new teams. And especially when you're taking your drivers from the Xfinity cars and putting them in the trucks, which we pretty much know Dye and Eckes are going to be driving trucks for them next year. Unless someone, and this is where spitballing, like someone like a Parker Retzlaff who does have a little bit of funding, if he can bring it to college, say, hey, keep this thing afloat here, let's try to do something. But if something like that doesn't come up, I don't see how they continue. They have the people in-house to move them to the truck program, which takes precedent. They're already moving their drivers over there. So unless a lot of people show up, not just drivers, but mechanics and crew chiefs, and there's a lot to unpack there. And I don't know where those people are coming from or if that money's going to show up. I'm sure they would like to. If 2 drivers showed up with $5 million each, they'd be like, yeah, sure. Okay, we'll do this. But that's a very hard thing to imagine at this front. So I do think all signs point to that team at least going into hibernation maybe for a year. But it's a very interesting dynamic, and that could have a ripple effect through the rest of the field, right? Like when you're looking at those fringe teams like a Jeb Burton trying to make the playoffs and Harrison Burton AM Racing, which they got a new driver coming next year. Maybe they're switching to Chevy. Maybe there's some sort of change in their future. There's a lot in that range that's kind of unfolding. While the big teams are set, it feels like the midfield on down has a lot to kind of unravel here in the next couple months. So it'll be interesting to follow at the very least. I wish there was a little bit more stability in. We had off video conversation about this last week where I was like, I wish there was more money within these series to fund these teams with full-time drivers like a Brett Moffitt who's just sitting on his couch and how do we get there? And you're like,
he's sitting in a sprint car.
But yeah,
he is racing. I want people to know that if you're watching and you miss Brett Moffitt, he's running sprint cars at Knoxville Raceway.
There you go. That's fun. Is that on Flow Racing? Can we?
It's on Dirt Vision.
Dirt Vision. There we go. Xfinity Series. So we're talking about the lower tiers there a little bit. Xfinity race was very, very good. Taylor Gray gets his first win. I felt like very respectable race, all things considered, minus Jeb and Sam Mayer, which we'll get into their issues. But I thought for the race that we saw, it doesn't get much better for Martinsville race. There wasn't any nonsense. There wasn't any huge just craziness. It was a straightforward, fun stock car race at Martinsville. I thought that was a really good show. What did you make of that one? Because I'm sure you enjoyed it, but then what did you make of JRM getting 3 cars into the championship as well? Because it seems like they're destined to take another title.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a column last year, and I said the Xfinity races at Martinsville is everything great about stock car racing. I love that platform. I love the cars. I love the characters in that division, the personalities. I thought it was just a fine race. I mean, it's somewhat. It's not buzzing, right? There's not like big headlines that come out of this weekend, and we should just jump right on into the one bit of conflict that we had, right? But I will just say broadly that as someone who loves Martinsville and I love old traditional stock car truck arm racing, right? The Xfinity Series is just great, and it's best reflected in that car at that track.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to prolong the Sam Mayer and Jeb Burton thing just to get into the basics and then get to the exciting part. But yeah, I thought, that was obviously the spice and sizzle of the race. I gotta ask you because I'm hoping you'll have some more insight. I saw Mayer push Burton out of the way there on that early restart. And then after the race, he was talking about how Burton ran him like shit all day. Was there something before that the context that we don't know that forced Mayer into making that initial move on the restart, which pissed Jeb off, and then Jeb saying he's going to wreck the shit out of him, which Jeb never does. But is there an original context to this whole thing?
It's funny. I saw them racing each other a lot, like to the point to where even before the incident happened, I was like, well, there they are doing it again. So this was like a race long narrative. And during this race, by the way, I'm jumping from playoff guys radio to playoff guys radio. And it felt like every other time I had jumped on Sam's radio, he was fussing about Jeb. I'm like, oh, they're still going at it. And so I just think that after, what is it, 250 laps that race is, they had just had enough of each other.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was mutual. And I'm not taking sides here. Like, I think that they're both hard-nosed racers. I think that Jeb has a lot that he's racing for. He's racing for his own validation, his place in the sport. He's trying to take the fight to teams with bigger budgets, which by the way, lost in the shuffle of, we talk about your race winning contending teams. JAR has had a really good season, and it's not flashy. It's not in a way that's going to grab headlines. But all I know is the number of times where I've talked to Jordan or Jeb, and it's like they both would say the same thing all summer. They would turn around and say, look at our haulers right next to all the cup cars. It's all the cup teams, and then it's JAR. Yeah. And so my point is that Jeb has a chip on his shoulder, not in a bad way, but he's trying to prove something to those teams. And in this circumstance, we heard Sam say it, purple bumper. And he just feels like he should be owed a little more deference than he got. And so all I will say is I understand where both are coming from. And on one hand, I consider them both friends. And so I hate to see two of my friends get into a fight, but I'm also massively entertained by it. I hate tearing up race cars. I hate that. So my one knock on Sam that I would say is that, referencing again that JAR is not the caliber of program that you drive for, do not destroy their race cars. That's chicken shit. But as I pointed out on Twitter, in a world to which NASCAR would probably fine him 40 grand or whatever the number would be for punching Jeb, if that's how you so feel compelled, well, then I guess you are going to wreck them under caution. And so
yeah,
it just goes back to my year-long campaign now of just let them fight.
Well, yes, I agree. I would like to see them fight. I saw you had a little back and forth there under that comment. I think we're definitely seeing NASCAR kind of crack down on some of these things, which I wish they wouldn't. I wish we could have guys show up and be like, listen, you ran me like shit today. I'm gonna. What's the issue? And if it escalates, then throw a punch. Like that. It doesn't have to be crazy. We don't need all these jackmen involved. Just like, hey, we're the ones doing this back and forth. The only thing I have, and this is maybe just a contextual thing from my viewpoint, I didn't realize Sam Mayer had such negativity built around him as a driver. And maybe I was just not paying attention enough to him or was oblivious to it. But I've seen Matt Kenseth wreck people who are going for a championship here in the most chicken shit move I've ever seen, get applauded and lauded and loved. And then I see this and everyone calls Mayer a shitty person for doing it. I'm sometimes lost in what is acceptable crashing of an opponent and not acceptable. You're going to say doing this at all probably isn't acceptable. but I feel like in the general fan base, like if it's Austin Hill or Sam Mayer, it's bad. But if it's Matt Kenseth or Dale Earnhardt, it's good. Where's the balance? Where's the rational thinking here?
I think that it's, do people like you or not, right? Like, it was acceptable for Matt Kenseth because
They don't like
they
Logano.
don't like Joey Logano. They didn't, and they still don't, right? And so,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Sam's resume that he doesn't quite have the longevity of a Jeb Burton. The Burtons are, for the most part, they're good old boys, right? Like they embody that kind of old school blue collar, pull up your sleeve. And Sam is the son of a old IMSA driver who ran sports cars. And I don't know. I'm spitballing, right? Like I like Sam. I think Sam is actually a really cool, fun dude, and I think he's really likable. But I think that's true of most of the garage. But I think it comes down to, one guy is seen as a ride buyer, and one guy is seen as a blue collar, works hard for everything. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate
Which,
to
forgetting
spoil
for
it
a
for
fact
everyone.
that everyone's really a ride buyer, if you think about
There
it.
it
Like,
is. You beat me to it.
tires are not free. Tires and fuel are not free, and someone's got to pay for a race car somewhere. But I digress.
Yeah, you beat me to it. Everyone is ride buyer, so it's just kind of funny when that's used as a negative. So what I do want to ask is, and I'm not entirely sure that anything he said was all that bad, especially if you're in a negative viewpoint of Jeb. What did you make of Mayer's interview? I felt like it was
quote worthy.
calculated, huh?
It was quote worthy, is what it was.
Yeah, it was definitely quote. I don't feel like he overstepped at all. I felt like he was like, "Hey, he raced me like shit. I didn't like it. This is why." And for someone who's been around for 8 years and hasn't really done much, I don't think he's the guy to be running me like this. It's from his viewpoint. That's his thoughts. Why do we want to muzzle him on that? I felt like it was spicy. I thought it was good. And he didn't say anything egregious. I didn't feel like it. And people gave him nonsense for the McMurray and Parker Kligerman did with the purple spoiler thing. It's like, well, if that's the world we're living in and we're talking about playoffs every damn week, then yeah, maybe we should give him a little bit of respect when he's fighting for his life here. I don't know. It seems like what we've been telling everyone is most important for the past 3 months.
Yeah, so listen, I think that this is such a, I hate to do this, but I'm riding the fence, and I'm not coming out on someone's side here. It's like, one, I appreciate the candor, and I will never ever get mad at someone for speaking their truth. And Sam basically cut a promo, right? Like, I want people to have personality and to have a little bit of flamboyance. I does he deserve a little deference? Probably, maybe, but I outlined all the reasons that I think Jeb is entitled to, fight for his life too. At the end of the day, as a guy that grew up going to short tracks, covering late model races where people are not afraid of saying the wrong thing or to be politically incorrect sometimes, I appreciated someone that got out of the car and just spoke his mind. I actually thought it was pretty clever. I'm not saying I agree with it, but the whole doesn't have the it factor, he has the shit factor. I don't know if it's fair, but it's funny. And
Yeah.
I heard it, and actually in real time. I have a video up of him on my Twitter, and thank God that it wasn't a two-way camera, because he said something along those lines too. And I'm trying my best not to laugh. and I think he read the room and recognized that people were eating it up. And so I think it kind of egged him on to keep going. He's like, well, and I got another thing. Because he actually said too, he was like, and I thought this line was fair. He's like, whether it was like Justin Allgaier or Jeb Burton or Jordan Anderson. And I actually thought this was a really good line too. He's like, I don't drive for them, and I don't give a fuck. Like, at the end of the day, I'm driving my car for my Haas factory team, my crew chief, and my people. And that's all I care about. And I think that's also fair, and I thought it was a great promo. Give me more
Yeah,
pro wrestling style promos.
he was smiling the whole time too. Like
He
you can
was.
tell
Oh, my
he was
favorite part
enjoying.
was on TV. On TV, he started to say something. He's like, "Ah, I'm sorry," and then he went and said it anyway.
He
It's
didn't
like he
refrain from
tried.
saying anything bad.
He tried
Um,
to be politically correct, and he couldn't stop himself.
yeah, I think my biggest thing, my biggest takeaway is we need more of it. I wish, whether you like the wrecking or not, he did something. Like one of my biggest issues with Jeb in totality, and this is years of it, is he says a lot, but he never ever does anything. I've never seen him throw a punch. I've never seen him do anything. I'm gonna wreck the dog shit out of Noah Gregson or whatever. What the fuck's he done about it? Like, it's fun to talk about it, and we always look at Ryan Blaney's radio as the most chaotic thing at times, and really it's just Ryan venting. And I get that drivers sometimes are going to vent, and it doesn't mean anything, but you can't say the things that you say, not do it, but then run the guy like shit, and then it just feels like, man, if you're pissed at him, you're going to do something, just go dump him and get it over with. But that didn't happen, and I want guys like Sam Mayer that are at least going to say it and do it instead of pretending that they're going to say it and do it. And that was my biggest takeaway, is that maybe you don't like Sam Mayer for saying that Jeb's got the shit factor or whatever he said. Although everyone loved Jimmy Spencer saying that Riley Hurt sucks shit. Everyone loved that. Again, it's the messenger, not the message, right?
That's right.
But I don't know. I really enjoyed what Sam did. I thought it sparked personality that I didn't really see from him before. I thought it added something interesting. So at least maybe next year it's something to follow. Maybe this is a rivalry we can sink our teeth into a little bit, and whatnot.
I will say, going back to my fighting thing, is that this actually does have legs, and that the last time that NASCAR had a meeting with, the Drivers Advisory Council, they talk about a lot of different things. They were talking about their marketing stuff for next year and how NASCAR wants, hell yeah, or some version of we're authentic and we're blue collar and we're a little, what's the word I'm looking for here? We're just a little unkempt, right? That's NASCAR's identity, is we're not polished. And apparently someone, I didn't get a name, but someone did say in this driver's NASCAR meeting, well, it's like, well, can I punch someone yet? And NASCAR didn't have an immediate answer yet. But my point is that
great.
drivers do feel right now that they're not in a position to where if they're super mad at someone, that they can just go walk up and just punch them and show their displeasure that way. And we saw it last year at Martinsville in the truck race with Taylor Gray and Christian Eckes too, right? Like Taylor went and marched down the front stretch, and some combination of us, it's been a year now, was like, well, then, why didn't you punch him? And Taylor's like, I can't. I literally can't. NASCAR will find me. And I thought that was the most frustrating answer in the world. Not that I'm saying that I wanted Christian to be punched, but if you feel compelled to punch someone, then just punch them. But we can't right now because we live in this super polished, I don't know if it's PC or whatever it is. The Stenhouse thing really bothered me, and I've brought this up so many times. It got NASCAR the most mainstream play in forever, and NASCAR's response was to fine him $75,000, and I've not gotten over it. We need to fix that. If we're going to start fixing playoff formats or championship formats and stages, and we're going to reset and revamp the sport, bring back boys have at it.
Yeah. I mean, you can also extrapolate that to Hamlin putting Chastain in the wall and finding him. There's a lot of things that just don't make a lot of sense. While we're on penalties, does Sam Mayer race this weekend?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'm actually okay with I'm okay with that, as much as I want guys to be able to. Again, I'm being intellectually consistent. I do not want to see race cars used as weapons. It only bothers me from the standpoint of Sam wrecked the shit out of him, but he's also not allowed to punch him. So to me, it just goes back to, maybe if you let him punch him, he won't use the car as a weapon, and you won't have to fine him or suspend him or whatever. But based on the precedents that we've set for a long time now, and it's not only right rears. I think Johnny Sauter 5 years ago. Was it Austin Hill in a truck race at Iowa?
Iowa.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was not a right rear, right? He just wrecked him under
No, he
caution.
basically did what Kyle Busch did to Hornaday.
Right.
Just
And
drove
so
in his back
even
and
going
shoved
back
him
to
in the wall.
Texas, NASCAR does not respond well to under safety conditions crashing
Right.
someone. So as much as I like Sam and look forward to seeing Sam, I will not see him in Phoenix. I feel pretty confident. Hey, he gets to get a head start on his vacation. So good for him. I'm sure he'll be in the Turks and Caicos or something or the other.
It's a smart move.
It is.
High IQ stuff there from Sam. So let's transition truck series. Actually, one thing I want to talk about. We do have to give props to Taylor Gray. Like it's not like he's going to watch this, but
I want to talk about it actually. Yeah.
I mean, this is his first big win. He didn't win in trucks. He gets this ride, which I felt like was slightly surprising and maybe not quite as deserved because he hadn't had the success in the truck series. But when you look at his luck at times, he should have won IRP in the trucks. John Hurt Nemechek wrecks him. The incident with Eckes that you're talking about here, should have just absolutely destroyed by Eckes. He was destroyed by Sammy Smith here in the spring. He's had a lot of these incidents that were not his own. He generally runs really clean. He runs people clean. He's not the guy that's putting a bummer to a lot of people. And he's had to fight for a win finally. And it felt like it all went right in this particular race. He didn't get wrecked. He didn't have, and with those late restarts, you were just waiting, building the anticipation. He drove a perfect race.
He's a good race car driver. He's still developing, and the best is still yet to come. I think sometimes people will look at his resume and it's like, well, what have you done in that car? And it's fair. It's totally fair. It's kind of similar to Sheldon Creed. And I still cannot for the life of me understand why we're still into 13 second place finishes or counting. If you finish second 13 times, you're good. Like, it's really hard to win races. It's really hard to finish second in the Xfinity Series races too. And just things happen. And things have happened to Taylor Gray. Taylor, I don't know. I first started covering Taylor in late model stock cars. I remember he won a Cars Tour race at Hickory. I remember he was upside down at Martinsville in a late model race many years ago. He's been good. He's been competitive. He's still developing, but he's also a really interesting character too. And he's a hard nut to crack. And that even in his post-race press conference last night, he and Ty Gibbs, the de facto car owner, were in the room, and the two of them together, they are just piss and vinegar. Like, Taylor can be, and not in a rude way. Taylor's not rude. Taylor is just very matter of fact. And so, like, I think Bob or Dustin, someone asked him, when I think it was Jeff Gluck actually. It's like, hey, well, now that you've won, does this make this season a success? And he was like, no. And we're waiting for Taylor to, follow up on that, and that was it. And I think even recognizing, it came across as rude, before answering the next question that was asked to him, Taylor was like, let me get back to your question you asked. No, it's not a successful year because this was our ceiling and we didn't meet it, blah, blah, blah. But I love the fact that he's so matter of fact and that he is not super polished. And it's just his way. And it goes back to our conversation about Sam or even Austin Hill. I get it. You guys don't like Austin Hill. Every racing series needs a character like Austin Hill and a Sam Mayer and a Taylor Gray and a Jeb Burton. And if nothing else, I love the Xfinity series, not only for the cars and for the racing, but we have all these different characters and personalities and all of this to say that I want to see Taylor Gray build on this and have more success, because I think that he would be another good personality to talk about when he's winning more.
Yeah, for sure. He definitely, Sheldon Creed didn't win that car, right? Like it's hard sometimes to win these races, especially when you got someone as dominant as JRM has been with their drivers. And so it was good to see him get that win. This is obviously something that's going to add an element to next year. When you look ahead to next year, it's the monkey's off the back. Now the next focus needs to be contending with Allgaier, because obviously Zildjian is moving on, but contending with Allgaier, contending with the JRM guys, and to lead Joe Gibbs Racing back into that championship fold, because he should be the I don't want to say the flagship. Obviously, Brandon Jones can go out there and win some races, but Taylor Gray should be putting that team on his back and make himself the leader and go out there and win the races and everything. Let's transition to Truck Series. Corey Heim continues winning. It's very, very impressive. The execution, and he had mechanical failures that robbed him of a couple of races at the beginning of the year. He basically could have won 60 or 65% of this season. It really is.
Let me say this real fast. The thing about Corey Heim, and I've started to think this more and more, if you're an anti-playoff guy, this is the one example to where I will concede and say, okay, you're right. I remember back in 2014 when this format was first introduced, the number of people who were like, oh, well, you can win every single race and not win the championship now. And I was like, that'll never happen. Corey Heim is a walking case study of the guy that could theoretically win every single race, and maybe not literally, but he could have. He was in contention to win every single race. He's winning over half the races. He is a walking case study for can win every single race and not win the championship. So when I said to you, whoever you are in 2014, that something like that will never happen, that's a silly analogy. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Corey Heim is him in multiple ways. He is him.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, really, he didn't win Talladega. He didn't win Atlanta. Okay. Drafting tracks. Homestead, he should have won and the motor shut off or whatever that 3 freaking times. Aside from that, I think he got moved at the end of Martinsville. Should have won that. I think that was innocent with Honeycutt. Just aside from and then of course at North Wilkesboro, he got moved out of the way for the win there. So it really feels like he could have put up another 5-6 wins on this year. It is so impressive. I really don't have any major takeaways from the Truck Series race. It really feels like it's Corey Heim versus the world in the Truck Series right now. It sucks that we're going to go to Phoenix, where I feel like Ty Majeski is going to be a super real threat. And as much as I like Ty Majeski, he doesn't have any business hoisting that trophy this year at all. And so aside from that, do you have any takeaways from truck race? I don't feel like there's a whole lot of skirmishes or anything crazy. It felt pretty straightforward.
No, I mean, listen, so like I'm torn on this too. Like if someone beats the 11 straight up, then you tip your cap. Like what I don't want to see is some sort of shenanigans like what happened 2 years ago, with Hocevar, wrecking Corey and costing Grant. I want it to be a straight up race, and if in a straight up race, the 98 finds some way to beat them there on that stage, then at a certain point you tip your cap to Joe and Ty and say, okay. It would feel really bad. It would feel kind of icky given what this year has been. But if it's a straight up race, okay. It's cool that Tyler Ankrum is a part of this. Actually, I want to give a shout out there because Tyler's been a truck racer now for, it feels like forever, 6-7 years. We always talk about how we want the Truck Series to have kind of lifers. And I think we're starting to have more and more of those. Majeski feels like he could be a Truck Series lifer. Unfortunately, he shouldn't be. But Ben Rhodes is very much a Truck Series lifer. Ankrum is a Truck Series lifer. And so that guy and that team, they work really hard. And so even if they don't win the championship, it's cool that they're a part of it. Some validation for all the hard work there. Who am I missing there? Who else is a part of this thing?
Honeycutt, who transitioned mid-year over to the 52.
Yeah, Honeycutt's interesting too, because I think the irony could be if they win that race again, if they win it straight up, the irony of him going to that truck next year. Like breaking news, we all know he's going to the 11. If he can find some way on that stage to beat them, That's good stuff too. It's a good story. So I want to see the 11. This is me. I want to see the 11 win because I want that sort of season validated. And
Yeah.
plus, I'm so sick of people sending me Winston Cup points, Mario Kart points, F1 points. I just want to see the 11 win. So, I don't get all the tweets that I get, the angry tweets, because for once it's actually deserved. Like
Yeah.
it would kind of be a travesty if the 11 doesn't win. But if someone beats them straight up, and by the way, same thing in Xfinity, right? Like if someone beats Zilich in the 88 straight up, if the 7 does it again, does that feel super unjust?
Yes.
Maybe.
I have an anti-Allgaier thing going right now. But so yes, I would say if the 7 beats him, it's a bit unjust. But
What is
I
the
think that
anti-Allgaier thing? What is it?
So in the past 18 races, Justin Allgaier has 4 top 5s. He
Yeah.
has not been a front runner. They show up great in stage 1. They dial themselves out. They wreck. They find, just like Martinsville's like, oh, holy shit, he's up there leading. And then he's wrecking with 30 to go like he does most weeks. Whereas Connor Zilich had a stretch of 16 straight top 5s. They're in the same equipment. They're in the same house. One's delivering week in, week out. He's got 10 wins or whatever. The other one's got a couple wins early in the year, not finishing races, not getting good results, constantly putting it in the wall or doing something stupid or not getting the results he should. I feel like when you're talking about in totality of the Xfinity series with 4 or 5 legit contenders, Allgaier is not able to finish top 5. And that's just a big problem for me. And that's his entire career. He had 9 top 5s all of last year. He won the title, but he had 9 top 5s in a JRM car. And you can see what Zilich is doing in that equipment. You should be there every single week and making yourself look like a monster, and he doesn't do it. And so,
well, keep in mind, not all programs are created equal. I mean, I understand that they're both JRM cars.
There's no competition for him. Like it's not like Jed Burton's anywhere in his class.
That 88 car has a little extra support. There's some Trackhouse influence there, obviously. So it's not totally apples to apples. But you're right. But I also think that this is a testament to the 7s. Everyone talks about season-long performance, right? And the 7 team had that season-long consistency to give them what they've earned this fall, which was to put all their eggs in the Phoenix basket. They knew pretty confidently they were going to Phoenix. And just like Marty Lindley, Jim Pullman's been working on his Phoenix car. And so if you look at the last couple of weeks, the focus has not been on those races because they're not all in on Phoenix, but man, they're pretty chest deep in Phoenix.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. He can go there and win because that's like his best track. It is what it is.
Same thing. Going back to the whole thing with, Tyler Ankrum, right? And, Quapple was fighting for something too. And, it would feel weird if they won because it's a brand new team, first year full-time crew chief and first time full-time driver. But man, when you think about what that could mean to his career, Allgaier's legacy is secure. Zilich's future is secure. We talk about a guy that's truly a blue-collar racer fighting for his life and career, what that would mean for his career to get it done on that stage. And so I appreciate the narrative there of what that could mean.
That's fair. I'd like Jesse Love to win it.
And Jesse's a great race car driver, right?
Yeah, I love the upset from outside because it's 3 JRM guys versus one other guy, and Jesse's been there the entire year, solid. He's a guy that if you look at just consistency, he does not put a foot wrong. It seems like any week, and so although what the hell is wrong with RCR this week? Actually, that's the question we need to talk about. There was a point in the race they were running like 28th and 30th on speed. I've never seen that. Any insight, or is that just an oddity?
No, I think it was just an oddity, but we'll see next week.
Right. Cool. Well, I don't have anything else to touch on those guys. What's that?
Are we going to close this show without talking about the lawsuit? We were in court on Thursday.
That's what. That's the last thing on my list.
I do want to talk about it because I think that we've we've crossed the Rubicon. Is that the expression? I have no idea what cross the Rubicon means. I think that's a saying for we've crossed the point of no return. This thing is going to trial.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I said that last week. I think I told you on the show or off air. I was like, man, this thing is going the distance. And between what I experienced in court on Thursday, and Denny said it straight up on Saturday. Denny said, one of us are on a suicide mission. I guess we're going to court on Thursday. And I for a lot of reasons, it's unfortunate. One, I want to go to the Snowball Derby. I go to the Snowball Derby every year, first week of December. And so this is really going to, from a personal, selfish standpoint, this is really hampering my ability to cover the Snowball Derby, which is the biggest event for short track scene. But it's also unfortunate because if this thing does not somehow get settled before or during the trial, I don't know that there is a winner. I struggle to see a scenario where if this thing goes to court and it gets bad and ugly and messy, how the sport is aided in any substantial way. And so what I learned this week is it seems like we're going there on Monday, December 1st at 9:30 in the morning. Time to wake up and eat my Wheaties. Be ready to go to court.
My question was lawsuit, do we care at this point? And the reason I phrased it that was, I feel like nothing happened this week. I feel like it was just a validation of what our thoughts already were, which was they aren't backing down. They're not going to back down. They want to see this play out. It's not good. You're right. Nothing good is going to come of this. Nothing. Best case scenario, somehow NASCAR's in the right, and it potentially folds a race team, which is not a good case scenario at all. The worst case scenario is that there's a significant validity to what 2311 is saying, and it completely uproots everything that NASCAR is built upon. And that is terrifying because it could be a very rocky road afterwards if with certain changes. So again, I still don't know what 2311 really wants. I don't, other than just permanent charters and more money. I don't know. Like it's a monopoly. It's a monopoly. It's a monopoly. Okay, it is a monopoly. Now what? You just want the right to go race this thing on your own. I'm worried about the layers being peeled back for something that for the wrong reasons, if that makes sense. And I wish if the argument was if you look at other sporting entities, we deserve to be permanent and we deserve more revenue sharing, that's fine. But that's not, I don't feel like that's the words that are being said as much as monopoly, monopoly, monopoly.
Well,
give me your thoughts. You're the one's actually sitting there listening to it.
But. Yeah. So listen, like I know that's the most popular question I'm asked too. Well, it's like, what do they want? And both parties sat in court on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they had an ample opportunity to exchange those ideas. And so that wasn't made public. But I would say from a public standpoint, 2311 and Front Row don't have to make clear what they want. That's not what a lawsuit is for. The lawsuit from a forward-facing standpoint is just purely proving, hey, someone's hurt me and this is how. And so when people try to say back, okay, well then let's say hypothetically that they did hurt you, well then what do you want? We don't have, we as this entire community who are invested in this don't have to get to that point until after it's over. Because I think 2311 and Front Row would be fair to say from a legal standpoint, I can't tell you what I want until a jury decides how much I've been hurt. And I know that's kind of a nebulous view, right? Because like, what do you mean until you prove how much you've been hurt? But I think until we have a legal understanding of to what degree, if any, NASCAR is engaged in anti-competitive behavior, it changes the scale of what the two teams would then say, okay, well then if we've established that the anti-competitive behavior was here, then our ask of damages is here. And I know that's not a popular answer, but I do think that NASCAR has said in court, we don't know what you want. I think they know now because Denny said on Tuesday they made pretty good progress towards something. So much the court only made them go to mediation on Tuesday, and they agreed to come back and pick talks up the next day. That was a good sign. And by the way, it still could be, even though they didn't get to a resolution and Denny said what he said on Saturday. I think we're waiting on the judge's ruling from what was argued on Thursday. In that, I think the most important thing is that we need to learn what is the market. Because we've talked about this before. Is the market premier stock car racing, or is the market sports and entertainment? And NASCAR, and I don't know that this was their best case, but NASCAR said, and this is a quote, you can make the case that dirt racing is premier stock car racing. And then he had a good chuckle. And if you look at his tweets, he actually tweeted at me that he's like, we learned that NASCAR thinks dirt racing is premier stock car racing. Not a great argument, right? So if the judge does not have to rule on this because it's a summary judgment, he could just say, we're going to let the jury decide all of this. But if Judge Bell does come back and say the market is limited to stock car racing and stock car racing teams, to me, not being a lawyer, just being a race fan, that would then put a little bit more urgency on NASCAR to then say, that hurts us a lot. If the judge has now decided that is indeed the scope of our market. All of this to say, I think there could be a settlement still, but I think we're waiting to learn what is the market. Maybe the judge rules, maybe he doesn't. He said within 2 weeks.
See who gets a little bit more leverage, and I mean, there's still time to blink before shots are fired, I guess. But
I think both sides now understand what each other wants. Because if they came back on Wednesday, that means that Tuesday produced enough of a runway to at least make NASCAR and 2311 Front Row say, okay, we've made progress to here. Let's get back on this bridge tomorrow and see where we are. And then they reached an impasse. But that to me does at least tell me that NASCAR hypothetically knows what the two teams want.
How much of input, or is at the front of this is 2311, Hamlin, Polk, those Jordan. I don't see anything from Front Row. I don't know what their involvement is other than just being extra parts of this, just so it's not just one team. How much are they even really a part of this outside of just saying, yeah, we're with them, we're supporting their mindset on this, we believe in what they're saying? Are they putting any, where do they stand in all this? Because other than a prepared statement in conjunction when 2311 does one, I don't know anything from the Front Row side. I haven't seen Bob Jenkins say anything. I don't know exactly if they're just along for the ride. Why are they doing this? I understand Jordan can do whatever he wants. He'll gamble $10 million. Isn't that a big deal? I see Front Row as a team that was very fledgling and has now found a foothold in NASCAR, and they're gambling it. And it kind of shocks me to a degree.
Okay, I'll say this. Bob has been to court some of the times. Jerry Freeze, the team's general manager, is at every single court appearance. So Jerry is super involved and is clued in. I share those questions because this does seem like 2311's lawsuit that Front Row to some degree is a part of. And I think enough people have brought up to me, why is Front Row here? That's a valid question that I do not have an answer to beyond the fact that they keep participating. They're still here. So even if some people want to point to like how invested in this are they really, they could withdraw at any moment, and they're still there, and Jerry's still showing up to court. I will say that Front Row is fighting in court to be not included in NASCAR's countersuit, because when NASCAR counterfiled against the teams, that included Front Row, and Front Row's response was, what is your allegation? Because NASCAR's countersuit alleged a conspiracy to boycott the 2023 duel at Daytona, and that was orchestrated allegedly by Curtis Polk. And so Front Row, Bob and Jerry are like, what does this have to do with us? We're a member of the RTA, but we're not even a member of the team's negotiating committee. So if your fault is with the TNC, which was Curtis Polk, Jeff Gordon, Steve Newmark, Dave Alpern. I feel like there's one more team I'm forgetting, but Front Row was not part of the team negotiating committee. The only thing that Front Row, to answer your question, is like, we don't want to be a part of this, is NASCAR's countersuit. And they argued that in court too. And NASCAR produced emails from Jerry that was just a back and forth email or text message with Curtis Polk, where basically Curtis was giving all the teams talking points for, don't negotiate with NASCAR individually. We need to stand together. But Front Row's response was, that doesn't mean that we're taking orders from Curtis. We have communication. We're trying to have a unified approach. There's a lot of different directions I can go with this. They don't want to be included in the countersuit, but they keep showing up and they're still a part of the lawsuit. And if they were not comfortable with what Curtis, Michael, and Denny were doing, they could leave at any moment, and they have not.
Fair enough.
And all Jerry's in court every single time. Now, granted, his team is being countersued, so of course Jerry's going to show up. But there's nothing to me, because I think this is what you're asking. Like, does Front Row still believe in it the same way that Curtis, Michael, and Denny do? And there's nothing to me to indicate that they don't, because they haven't left.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I just, it strikes me as an interesting partner in this whole deal for 23XI to have. They feel like the most, not that.
Well, let me say this. So how has Bob Jenkins made his value, his net worth? He's a restaurant franchisee. He owns a bunch of Yum food brands, which is Taco Bell and A&W and Long John Silver's, and so he is a restaurant franchisee, which at face value, franchising NASCAR, franchising restaurants, there's not a lot of parallel, but I think he sees some things in terms of what his value is to those individual brands compared to what his value should be to the NASCAR brand. And without getting him on the record, because he's not going to talk about it on the record right now, we don't have any affidavits or written content from him to say why. But I think he views this purely as a business bottom line thing, that as a franchisee in another business who understands his value to the parent companies, I think, me speculating, that he sees his team not being valued at the way he feels like it should be, given team's contributions to the NASCAR brand.
Cool. All right. That sounds good. I'm done with lawyer talk for today. I'm excited for this to end, honestly, because I don't want the bad things to happen. Any final thoughts? Do you want to pick winners for the championships, or do you want to stay neutral on that?
No, I mean, we have a show, and so this is what we have shows for. And we have a show that's purely designed to make me look like an idiot. Because if I had done this show, if we started this when the playoffs started, I created my own playoff graphic, and I got 2 of the final 4 right. And my first 4 eliminated was a complete bust. And me tweeting my playoff bracket was designed purely for everyone to tell me that I'm stupid. And so I'm going to play along, and I'm going to tell you who I think wins the championship, just so everyone knows that I'm an idiot.
All right, there it is.
We're
All
gonna
right,
go.
Truck Series.
Yes, let's go trucks up. Truck Series. Ty Majeski, 98, Joe Shear. I don't want it to happen. I don't want it to happen because I just think that, for all the reasons that's a champion team, and it would feel the most icky. And I think we are going to start off the weekend in the most toxic way imaginable, and we're going to just have to. It reminds me, I'm a Cubs fan, and I remember Mark DeRosa, who played for the Cubs in 2007 and 2008, before the Cubs won the World Series and broke their streak. They were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, and he was so mad that the Dodgers eliminated them in 2008 that he went to the locker room and he took a baseball bat and he started beating the wall in. And what happened was he broke a plumbing line, and shit just started like flowing all over the locker room, all over him. He's being showered in poop. And he was just like, bring it on. It's like, fine, whatever. So I tell you that story because Ty Majeski is going to win the Truck Series championship and not 11-win Corey Haim. And we are just going to have to wade and shit all weekend because of how that sets the tone. So we're going to get to or you want to make your pick first, Trucks?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Corey Haim. I feel like it's Haim or Majeski on pure pace. I like that they've had a very long time to prepare for this. I'd say if there was a track that is probably their weakest, it is this style of track. Not that they're weak anywhere, but where they had contenders. Losing Lane Riggs in this equation at this track type is honestly a beautiful thing for them. It really is Ty Majeski. Does he show up? Does he have the same pace as last year? I think they're going to be pretty equal. It just comes down to execution. So I'm going to go Corey Haim. I have a lot of faith in Scott Zipadelli. If you give him enough time to plan for something, he's going to bring a lot of speed. So I'll go Corey Haim in that one.
He brought a lot. He had a lot of time last year too. But Xfinity, after swimming our way out of the poop on Friday, I think Connor Zilic gets it done on Saturday.
I thought you were going to see Carson Quapple.
No. Listen, I'm looking at this purely from a data analytical standpoint, and I guess the recency bias of seeing how good that 98 team was last year, and just knowing the way that team operates and knowing that they've spent a lot of time on their Phoenix truck too, and they started from a really good place. I just feel like they're going to be really good. So this is not like I'm picking with my heart. If I were to pick with my heart, I would say all the right things and make sure that nobody was mad at me. But then I look at, Phoenix and JRM short track package and the fact that, they're really good. I think they're going to be really hard to beat. And there is a recency factor with the 7-2. They had the best car. Justin made a mistake last year and overcame it. That's how good they were. They were able to overcome their mistake and win the championship anyway. These are all gut feelings born of data and analytics. And I just think that Marty Lindley and Connor Zilic, they're just going to be really, really good. So I don't see a reason to. There's no obvious mathematical reason to bet against them in the same way that I feel in the Truck Series.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going Algar. I don't think he necessarily deserves that. I've made that perfectly clear. But I mean, Jesus, we're going to Phoenix. He's just really, really, really good there. You're going to have to win the race to beat him for a title there. So I'm going to go ahead and go with him. He's had some bad luck. He's had tires blown when he's leading here. Last year was a shit show until it wasn't, in this championship race. But I think he's just going to, it's like it's giving him home field advantage to a degree. This is his best track and he's going to show up there and be very, very good. And I don't know if this is the style of racing that Connor's best at. That's the difference is, you don't, especially in the Xfinity series right now, you don't get as much short flat track racing as you used to. It is a lot. I mean, they're 8 road courses now, right? So this style of racing still Connor's got a couple races, but not a lot, and Allgaier is just super strong here. So I'll go with him. I think, again, Connor and Corey Heim would be the two most deserving wholeheartedly. I'm hoping that happens. But I think there's going to be a clear levels here with Allgaier versus Zilich being the two top guys, and then Quapple and Love not really going to have the pure pace to hang with them, unfortunately.
I'm going to build anticipation for my cup pick. So give me yours first.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a hard one because if you look back to 2019, all four of these drivers have a win here, which is really impressive. This is where Chase Briscoe got his first win when he was driving with Stuart Haas. He won the first next gen car here, race win here. There's been times when HMS have looked unbelievably dominant here with William Byron and Larson smashing here last spring. JGR and Toyota have looked amazing at times here with this car. And it's similar to kind of where we were with Martinsville. It's like Penske and Hendrick, it kind of fluctuates depending on the season or the week or the time that they show up. And sometimes Hendrick has dominated Martinsville and sometimes Penske has, right? It's kind of been the same thing at Phoenix the past 2 years. And it really kind of just depends on how they show up. Who wakes up with that little bit of an edge? I'm going Chase Briscoe, though. I think this is a great track for him. I think this is a great track for Chase Briscoe in terms of fitting his style. He has had a little bit, they've had a week. They got to focus on their Phoenix package for a couple weeks. Hamlin was doing that as well because he won his way in. So JGR as a whole has been working on that setup, really being able to put in a lot of time and focus in those cars. I think we've seen both teams be good here, so you're splitting hairs. But I think when you look at this track in particular and a driver that fits the style the best, I think it's Chase Briscoe. And right now, he's the most consistent driver in the series. I mean, he just is. He's top 5 down there every week. He's got speed. As long as they execute, I think they can win this. And he's probably the underdog, but I think he can get it done.
Yeah. So I keep wanting to argue with myself because I think, to your point, you can make compelling arguments for everyone. And I opened this show talking about every single reason why I think each team can win, and they're all equally compelling. And, in a season to where we have so many, in an era where we have so many wacky, wild storylines, and I think you know where I'm going. I think we're going to end this season with the wildest, wackiest scenario of all time, and we're going to have to watch some combination of Steve Phelps or Steve O'Donnell hand Denny Hamlin a trophy before they go to court 3 weeks later.
It would certainly spice it up.
It would certainly be the most remarkable turn of events. I just think that the mechanical gremlins aside, that if you were to tell me right now, who is the best NASCAR Cup Series, this is what it comes down to. Who is the best NASCAR Cup Series driver? I think it's Denny. I think that Kyle is the best race car driver in the world with his diversity and the multiple disciplines. And I think he's a really awesome Cup driver too. I just think that Denny is going to do all the homework. Denny is going to spend 20 hours a day this week doing the sim. He is going to be as prepared as any human being has ever been. I think he's been through this so many times. He's not going to be psyched out. Like I think Denny's actually resigned to the fact that this is not going to go his way. And I think that what happens psychologically is he's going to go in with no pressure because he's got his 60 wins now, and he's going to go to court and he's going to let that define his off-track legacy. And whatever happens here is just a thing. He's going to do the work because he always does the work. I think that his team is better. I think he's got the best pit crew of those that are remaining. I think that they're going to execute. And, small sample size and anything can happen. I just think that everything keeps pointing 11. And I think it's going to make our winter all the more interesting.
It'd be great for a lot of reasons. It'd be certainly interesting. If there's ever a driver that probably deserved one through his success, it's him, right? There's been him and Mark Martin. I think they're the only two that have really just shown the ability to be multi-time championship winners and haven't been able to break through, right? This definitely feels like that last chance potentially for Hamlin. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he's we get a full season format next year and he just absolutely kills them. But this feels like it's crescendoing to his big moment. It really does to a degree. So if he does that and they have to go out there and hand him the trophy and fake the smile and fake the congratulations and then go to battle in a couple weeks afterwards, that would certainly be a fun storyline.
It would be a story. I don't know if it'd be fun for anyone involved. I think it would be fun for Denny. I don't know.
Oh yeah, he'd like it.
He would enjoy it. I don't know that NASCAR would find it fun. I'm squeamy right now even thinking about it, just because it's narratively juicy. But gosh, it just makes things weird.
What do you think there's
Are you expecting, like, if Denny's leading the race with 10 laps to go, are you expecting Go Gadget explode a back marker?
Oh yeah, Cody Ware is definitely losing another wheel, like 100%. The Phantom
I'm
debris
kidding, everyone. I'm joking.
The
Or am I?
Phantom debris caution's back. No, it won't happen because they know they can't. If that, where they are, there's too much backlash, right? Like the whole point of this whole playing nice thing is that you can't have anything to be used against you. Like, so no, it won't happen. That's why NASCAR hasn't been like too harsh on, yeah, we took the charters, but you guys just kind of keep racing whack like we're all here together. Once the lawsuit's settled, then NASCAR will drop the hammer on them or not, or whatever. But right now, it is very much a grin through
Joe Gibbs Racing too. This is not 2311. So we I know it's hard sometimes. We have to separate Denny the driver and Denny the co-owner. For the sake of this conversation, we're talking about Denny the driver. But as soon as he takes the checkered flag, well, Denny the driver is done. But I will say, NASCAR is going to be like, we're canceling our Champions Media Tour. No Champions Breakfast. No Champion New York Media Tour. We don't need the driver doing a media tour. Go somewhere else.
Yeah, no shit. Could you imagine him doing a media tour? Like, yeah, I'm suing the hell out of these people. They suck.
I laugh about it, and I think it's going to happen. But if you're NASCAR, it's the worst case scenario. We've already booked our champion to go on all these talk shows, and they are not going to talk about his accomplishment.
No, they're going to have to ask him. Well, I agree. I think we're both on a JGR driver, so that probably means Larson or Byron gets the job done.
That's right.
It will be a very intriguing race. These are the four probably most deserving, given everything that we've seen this year. I think they're all pretty equal. They all have the ability to win. I think that's the coolest part is, like, you can see any of them showing up and winning this race. Yep. Anything else to add?
I don't know. I should save some of this for our season wrap up. So I'll probably pocket some of this. I think that despite all of the frustrations that we have right now as race fans, and certainly I'm a race fan too, the one thing that I'm taking away the most leaving Martinsville is that I just enjoyed Martinsville, and I enjoyed a Martinsville Cup race, and I do not want to lose sight of the fact that we're making progress with this car. And if I'm going to be the guy that beats the hell out of NASCAR for years over this car and says, we've got to make this better, and this is not reflective of what the product should be at a place like Martinsville, I just want to, again, give credit to mostly Goodyear. This is not NASCAR. Goodyear's done all the work. So, credit to those guys. I'm excited to see if we've made more progress on Phoenix. I still think Phoenix is going to be a track position race, which is why I go back to the 11, by the way. I think they're going to qualify good. Does Briscoe out qualify him? Right. But I think Denny will be right there. Denny's right there in qualifying every week too. But I think it's going to come down to a late pit stop and whose pit crew executes, because I still think it's going to be really hard to pass. And So I'm curious to see what that race is going to be. But I think we're making progress with this car, and that's my number one takeaway leaving Martinsville. We're not there yet, and this is not old next, Gen 6 racing. Martinsville's starting to feel like Martinsville again, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, kind of piggybacking on what you said, I do think the racing will be better here. We see it at times. There can be multiple grooves on this track. They can run from the wall to the apron, especially in 1 and 2. And I think with a little more tire fall off and a little bit more, I think the racing could be good, better, enjoyable. And so I'm not as concerned about guys not being able to pass, which I think will make a racier race. But you're right. It's still Phoenix. It's still all about execution. It's still all about getting out, off pit road that last stop with the lead. And nevertheless, I think we're in for a great race, great weekend. I appreciate you jumping on again. That was a lot of good information, I feel like, and a lot of fun. So as always, guys, please check us out on Twitter, social. Matt's got a million different things in the fire with short track scene and going seeing the races. I haven't said this yet. I was going to try to come up with some fancy tagline, but I don't know if there's a harder worker, especially in the media side of things, than Matt. He's all over the place right now. So make sure you support his work. One more of these for us this year, probably, and then maybe we'll do a lawsuit special, and then maybe a couple of things there in the off season. But appreciate everyone who's been checking these out. Matt will probably have some after post race duties for Phoenix, so we maybe push back to Monday on our show. But thanks everyone for checking it out. Appreciate you guys, and we will catch you next time.